Greeting, readers, or at least watchers, I guess. I don't assume that anyone reads, but at least you clicked on me and you are interested in seeing what I have to say, I guess. So here we go. Today's book is To Die Beautiful. It is by Buzzy Jackson. It is a historical novel. Actually, it's written in the form of an autobiography. It's an autobiography, a historical, fictional autobiography about a actual person. And the person is Hannie Schaft. Hannie Schaft was a resistance fighter in during World War II in the Netherlands. And she was a very young woman, a law student who, as the war began and the Germans moved into the Netherlands and took over, she stopped being a law student after they made them sign loyalty oaths to Hitler and the Third Reich. So when that occurred, she said, "Okay, I'm done," and so she stopped being a law student. So from there, she volunteered for helping people. There was kind of like this co-op center where they would distribute, food and things like that to people who needed it. This was still, a Netherlands people thing. And so she volunteered for that. And there's a Nurse Decker who was a character in that situation. And soon that place was torn up, raided by the Nazis, no longer there, and Nurse Decker was gone. But before she left, she helped connect Hannie with the underground resistance, who were fighting the Nazis all through the war. So we go into her career as this resistance fighter. She has friends, schoolmates, who are Jewish. She hides two of them in her family's home in Haarlem. I don't know how you pronounce Haarlem. Haarlem. Anyway, it's a city, a major city in the Netherlands. So two of her friends are kept hidden in her parents' house. Her parents okay, because that's when they were starting to round up the Jewish people and haul them off on trains somewhere. And, back then we didn't really know they didn't really know what exactly was the fate of these people. They just knew that they were disappearing. And, after they'd shut down all the Jewish businesses, made them wear the yellow stars, did not allow them to buy things. Basically, they just sort of started to stay home, but then they were raided and rounded up and shipped away. So she has two female friends who are in her parents' house, and when you now, I haven't read the Diary of Anne Frank, so people who read the Diary of Anne Frank probably know a lot of this stuff already. But when you were hiding out and not looking out the window. You were in a blackened room, because the windows were blacked out anyway because of the possibility of air raids on the Germans from Britain. So meanwhile, they're seeing the airplanes travel over above them on their way to bomb London and so forth. So what manifests here is a very exciting adventure novel. That's what Buzzy Jackson is, a historian, and has written some other historical books, and I believe this is her first go at fiction. And she's actually a woman, Buzzy. I know Buzzy is not a particularly gendered name, but Buzzy Jackson is a woman historian. Three books of nonfiction, has a PhD in history from the University of California, Berkeley. So, but handling the novel, she did a really good job. I think it's a really a very exciting novel to read. It's basically an adventure saga. In the voice of this resistance fighter, and what goes on is like she meets a couple, maybe four other resistance people are main characters in the book. There is Jan, Jan, who she kind of falls for, and so there's a little bit of romance with Jan, and that's kind of the moments of any sort of transcendence she has from the horror of the scene that they're dealing with. Like, they kiss and get together and sleep together, and this is the only moments that she kind of gets out of everything, and it struck me reading it how I guess humans, we use this sex and love as a way of transcending the mundane of our life and the difficulties of our life, and of course it can end up with certain connections being the difficulty of our life, and as it gets complicated and over-connected and things like that. But so she does have this little romance. Unfortunately, Jan does not stay with them. Let's put it that way. If you want to read the book, I won't spoil what goes on, but Jan is out of the picture at some point, and then her primary contacts are Truus, Truus, and Freddie, who are two very young sisters. They're even younger than Hanny, who is, I think 22 when all this starts to go on in the earlier, in about, I guess, 42. So, they're kind of all waiting out the war, as everything in the Netherlands, basically in Haarlem, where all this is going on, and some in Amsterdam, where the whole scene is getting just worse and worse, to the point where toward the end everyone is starving because the Germans aren't supplying them with food, so they're basically starved out. They're all in rags, the clothing that they wear, because it's all been patched and patched again and put together with what have you. So things are very, very bad, and all these people who have disappeared, and now these three women, young women who we finish the story with, are in hiding. So what sort of missions do they go on? There's one where the two of the women go and sneak into a power plant and bomb the railroad track at this power plant that blows out the power plant that is powering something that's going on with the German war effort. The Germans have taken over everything, so everything is going into the German war effort, And you know, she talks about when they first come, they think they're going to be friendly with everyone. They think, oh, the Holland's, you know, the Dutch, the Netherlands is right next door, and they're going to be friendly to us because they're basically just like us. And you know, of course, they're not, and they really kind of reject the Germans. Although there are many collaborators, and they point this out in the novel that there are a lot of these collaborators, and part of what goes on in the book is that they become assassins actually on their bicycles, and track down like a chief of police who's a collaborator turning people in, and they sneak up on them and stick their pistols in their bellies, and bam, 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 they become assassins. So and all these scenes are very well constructed by Buzzy Jackson in this book, because you know they're coming into this dangerous situation on their bikes. By the way, the bikes have wooden tires. They've fixed wood to the tires somehow, because they don't have any rubber, because the rubber is going to the war effort. So they're rattling along in their bikes with these wooden tires. They don't have wooden shoes, but they have wooden tires, and you know it goes through how they plot these assassinations. There's like, I don't know, 3-4 assassinations in the book. And you know, it actually starts out, the prologue of the book has her in prison, so we know right off the bat that she's going to end up being captured and be in prison. So we know that from the outset. So that's not any sort of a spoiler on my part. So back to this how it's all falling apart there. The wood, trees have been cut down. They have no fuel either. So it's, you know, it's not that hot in Amsterdam and Harlem in the winter. So they don't have all the trees have been, the old elms in the city have been chopped down to burn up in wood stoves and so forth. So and by the end of it all, they don't really have anything to you know, they're living in a houseboat right at the end. And the main characters, and they wait till you know, because there's so many canals. So they wait until it's there's frost on the windows, on the inside of the windows, before they start the fire, and you know, sleep all bundled up. So it's, you know, it's very, very hard, and you know, it gets very exciting toward the end, because even though we know what's going to happen at the beginning, sort of, the war is coming to an end. The Allies have, the Americans have landed in Normandy, and they know about that. So they know that the Americans are on the march. They know they're in the lower part of the Netherlands and have liberated some cities. But so there's all this of like, well, when are they going to come, and you know, when are we going to get some food, and when is everything going to be working out here for us? And of course, it does not work out for Hanny. And so we know that she's in prison, but then the last chapters of the book are about her imprisonment. You know, it's all once again in first person. So, which, you know, was really put you right there, and so we don't, you know, step away and look at it from the wider picture. We stay right down there in with what she's dealing with from day to day, in this fictional imagining by this historian, Buzzy Jackson. So Buzzy Jackson does not spare us at all in dealing with the situations of the imprisonment and what she goes through at the end in prison, and it's all very horrible and a little hard to imagine, and not wanting to imagine it, and just really, she is we hear about her imprisonment, and we go through what she goes through there with her. There's an afterword at the end of the novel in which Buzzy Jackson tells us a lot of how the whole thing was put together, and who there is the character Truus, Truus, actually lived to 2016, and wrote an autobiography of her time of her life, including the time in the resistance. So a lot of the information is coming from that, that's put into this novel. So it's actually very trustworthy and true to life in that way. It's just also sad and miserable, and this is, I guess, the fourth book I've talked about war in. One of them was the Vietnam War. One of them was World War I. And these wars just keep happening, and thinking about this resistance, I'm wondering how resistance is going to really happen in the future, with the IDs becoming digital and everything being in large databases. I mean, the Germans were quite clerical in that way of keeping records of everything and everybody, but it could be. Like there's up in the early part, one of the first things Hanny does is steal the other Gentiles' IDs and gives them to her Jewish friends, so they can still go in the streets for a little while anyway. But that kind of thing is not going to be possible in the next major clampdown, and probably isn't possible in the clampdowns that are occurring today. And I guess that's how I want to end this, is what do we do if we live in a country that has occupied several other countries, say in this century? Say they've raided 3-4 other countries and torn everything apart, and caused a lot of people to go into exile and become refugees. And how do we resist that, especially if we're sitting in a comfortable country? And in Germany, they got attacked. They eventually. I don't know. Maybe I need to read something about the German resistance, whatever German resistance there was, before they started breaching the borders and really attacking Germany, I guess bombing, and then soldiers entering in. So it just made me think about this occupation of a foreign force, and how frankly how the United States has been doing that for the past 20 years or so, with Afghanistan and Iraq, and attacking Libya and sending that country into it's one right after another. And I don't like living in this, fair. It's not like the United States hasn't been also conquered by sort of foreign elements with the corporate takeover of everything and centralization of these corporate things. I mean, 100 years ago, I think there was a little less, more local businesses and so forth, and everything is becoming just this one centralized thing that we're all involved in and beholden to, and I don't know what the future brings, but sometimes I think about moving somewhere else, but then, then I'm taking advantage of their being poor with me being, slightly, somewhat richer. So, yeah, I don't really know. But anyway, To Die Beautiful is a really great novel, and I highly recommend it. It is called in the UK. I've a Facebook friend. I have a written review of this that I put on Substack, and I will link to my Substack if I'm starting to write reviews again, and you can read that if you want. But it's a real. Oh, what I was going to say, in Great Britain, it's called The Girl with the Red Hair. Which is what which is really a better title. I don't know what To Die Beautiful is about, because she did not really die beautiful in the novel, and it makes it seem a little bit more romantic. I guess they wanted to romanticize things for us Yankee readers. So it's called The Girl with the Red Hair, which is how she had red hair, and that's how the enemy was looking out for her, because this girl with the red hair that came out in a bicycle and assassinated these collaborators and some Nazis, some Nazi guys. So that's about it, I guess. And I thank you for watching. I've been getting some nice comments that I really do appreciate, and actually some recommendations for some other books that I might be looking into. So thank you for that, and at least till I alienate you with whatever I say. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.